If the class structure resembles a pyramid, those in the upper middle class are part of a narrow band near the top. A 4-year college degree and professional job define membership in this social class. And only about 1 in 5 white American children have at least one parent with these statuses. Being born near the top of the class structure has many advantages, but it also has another important feature. There is plenty of room to fall. Downward mobility refers to falling, moving from a higher to a lower social class. It is a neutral descriptor, not a moral or negative one. There are many types of downward mobility. This book focuses on one: intergenerational, absolute downward mobility from the upper middle class. Intergenerational downward mobility refers to adult children entering a lower social class than their parents occupied as adults. As children's class position is defined by their parents' class position, intergenerational downward mobility also refers to entering a lower social class as an adult than the class individuals were raised in as a child. Intergenerational mobility is measured in what social scientists call an absolute way when it refers to children entering a lower social class than their parents, regardless of how they or their parents rank compared with their peers in their generation. As every upper-middle-class youth has at least one college-educated parent and may also have one parent who entered the upper-middle class through marriage, downward mobility from the upper-middle class means neither becoming a college-educated professional nor marrying one. Class reproduction for youth born into the upper-middle class, by contrast, means becoming a college-educated professional or marrying one. Of course, class positions can change, and some argue they are especially prone to do so shortly after the transition to adulthood. This book follows youth from age 13 to 18 until age 23 to 28, and takes this concern into account in 3 ways. First, because some young adults are still completing their education, this book defines graduate school as equivalent to a professional job. Second, because young adults' incomes are particularly unstable, only education and occupation are used to define class. And third, this book considers youth's trajectories toward downward mobility, or class reproduction, not their final or permanent class positions. These trajectories are relevant to youth's future. About 80% of upper-middle-class youth who avoid downward mobility at age 26 continue to avoid it as middle-aged adults. And about 70% of upper-middle-class youth on downwardly mobile trajectories at age 26 continue to be downwardly mobile around age 40. Thus, contrary to folklore, the transition to adulthood is not a time of inconsequential exploration, even for those born into the upper middle class. Rather, it sets youth on trajectories that most do not leave. The numbers. For youth born in the 1980s, the most common way to enter the upper middle class as an adult was to be born into it as a child. However, among this cohort, downwardly mobile trajectories were common too. About half of children born to a college-educated parent in the 1980s have not graduated from college, and over half of the sons of professionals have not become professionals. Even when including marriage as a way to stay in one's class, about half of youth born in the upper middle class have not reproduced their childhood class position. Downward mobility is then routine. Part of the reason relates to the number of slots in the upper middle class. The number of students colleges admit, the number of professional jobs, and the number of college-educated professionals available to marry. For upper middle class youth born in the 1980s, only the first part of this pathway had plenty of positions. American colleges have long reserved space for upper middle class students, and they continued to do so as Julie and Vera's cohort applied. Selective colleges admitted students using criteria that tilted an upper middle class student's favor. The courses offered in highly resourced schools. The test scores that pricey school districts made easier for upper middle class students to obtain. The extracurricular activities